All right, so today we're doing a gym owner breakdown with Mark Wilson. So just to get straight into it, Mark, we just want to run through a little bit of background about your gyms. What's your gym? Where are you based? What's your model? And, how long have you been operating?
Okay, so we're a group training facility based in a town called Whiting, which is just outside of Newcastle. We opened in September 2023, so we've been going 2.5 years now. And yeah, we've just seen huge growth in the last kind of two years since opening. Yeah, it's been a great journey so far.
That's good, mate. So I know obviously we spoke a couple of times on the phone a few years ago when you were kind of just getting going. So where was the business at when we first spoke? Like what was feeling tough or challenging at that point?
I think when we first spoke, I wasn't quite sure of the model I wanted to go down in terms of how to break down membership packages, how to sell the product, and where we wanted to go with things. And once I did get started, it was quite clear that I'd seen a few things from Gym Owner and realised that group training model was the way I wanted to go forward.
Yeah.
We started off first few months. I kind of just did things myself with a bit of advice. But about 6 months in, I decided that we wanted to go on board with Gym Owner just to sharpen everything up and get a little bit more kind of insight out to how the group training model works, how to get some systems in place. 'Cause, I started off on my own, and it was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I know obviously like at that point, like most gym owners, you're starting solo, figuring out the model and stuff like that. So what kind of model did you end up landing with? Obviously we discussed different things around making that work from a capacity perspective and revenue side of things. Like where did you end up with?
Yeah, so I went down the kind of model where I wanted to go to groups of up to 10 per session. And how that worked, we put a certain amount of sessions on during the day. And I was doing it as a one-man band. I was doing all the coaching, all the programming, and then all that initial kind of marketing myself. And it just got to a stage where it was, I was doing 40 to 45 hours of coaching before I'd even lifted the laptop. The first 6 months, so I was at kind of breaking point where I was being a bit of wasn't been the best husband, wasn't been the best dad. I still remember to this day, my wife made me dinner on a Friday night and I fell asleep next to it. Eating it, 'cause I was that tired. So
Yeah.
it was at that point where I kind of wanted to reach out to Jim Owner and say, right, okay, although we've had some early advice, I need to get stuck into the program because one, life can't go on like it did. Two, I want to make sure that, I was making the very best of the business, but also looking after myself as well as an owner. Like, it just wasn't a sustainable kind of what I was doing at that point.
Yeah, it is tough when you get started, especially like when you're doing solo, because I was the same as you. And, everything is reliant on you. So you find yourself coaching, you're doing sales, you're trying to do marketing, you're trying to squeeze everything in, and then family life alongside that is really, really tough. So what were like the two or three kind of big changes or big things that you implemented, first once we started work together that you felt kind of changed things towards a better path for you from there?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing was staffing. Going to get a member of staff. Like, I realised that I can't do it on my own.
Yeah.
There's only a certain amount of hours in the day. And I realised that my members probably weren't getting the best version of me because I was kind of getting to the end of the day and kind of just about surviving. The first thing was, and the best bit of advice I got initially off you guys was the approach of how to build a team. And I went and got my first coach, Fraser, who was an unbelievable addition to the number 6 performance. And that was the biggest change because it allowed me time to then look at the other things, a lot more time on things like sales and acquisition, things like that, which previously I hadn't had any time because I was constantly coaching. So that was the first and biggest change that I made. And then off the back of that, then obviously all the systems around client acquisition in terms of paid ads and things that I was completely new to, how to market properly and how to, rather than just going through your social media with very few followers and trying to get everything through that and, word of mouth, it was right. Okay. How do we get this out to a lot of people? And, those two big changes there were massive because we've been in a position where we had about 25 members with a few guys who were on kind of flexible packages. But then all of a sudden, by the end of I think it was in our first 3 months, I think we were up to about 60 already. And then we're sat now with just over 170 members, with a few guys in trials as well. So in less than 2 years, like, remarkable change from 20 members and doing falling asleep in
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's probably both sides of, the positives that you'd want to experience, which is not only have you gone from 25 members up to like 170 plus trialists and all of that side of things, but then you're in a position now where you're not doing 40 or 50 hours a week of the coaching as well, which is obviously like a big, big benefit there. I mean, what would you say your typical like week looks like now versus before as the owner?
Yeah, I think so. I still coach a couple of hours a day. Some days it's by choice, and some days it's because I've got the other coach in there and I'm not needed. Um, and then most of the other time, I'm spending time on making sure that our lads are running correctly, making sure I'm checking in with members. A lot more of my role now is overseeing and kind of almost managing as such. And just got a lot more freedom in my day-to-day life as well. For the first kind of year and a half, I said I never got to take my kids to school, never got to do anything as a family, never got to go away on weekends and stuff. So from a personal level as well, I've just been able to free some more time up and have a more realistic full-time job than doing crazy hours and constantly being tied down by the business. So yeah, the working week's great. When I do go into coach, the members get the best version of me because I'm refreshed and energized. And then when I'm away from there, I'm growing the business and making sure that everything's going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think you made one good point there. Well, a number of good points, but one in particular, which is you coach within the business still, but for the most part, that's a choice. And I think that's something that can often get like muddled up where people think, oh, I need to remove myself from the business and I need to just be the owner. And maybe they've still got that love for coaching like a lot of gym owners do. And that's something that we definitely work towards where, we want you guys to coach if you want to coach, but for that to be a choice that like, I want to be on the gym floor, not that it's a necessity for the business to operate. Cause then you've got, that freedom of choice of like, well, I can go in and coach, but if I want to take 2 weeks off, 10 days off, the weekend off, then it's not going to negatively affect the business at all either. So for you then, what would you say, since we started work together, it's been a couple of years now and you've done incredibly well over that period. What would you say like the 2 or 3 biggest either results or benefits that you've had from the relationship that we've had?
I think it's been one of the biggest benefits I've found certainly is around the kind of client acquisition and how you take someone who's a lead right through to converting them as a member, and learning how to sell the product to the best of my ability. You know what I mean? In terms of, I think prior to working with you guys, it was very much of, do you want this membership package? And then it was no, it was like, right, on to the next one. But there's loads of things about learning how to take them through that whole process, which has been really, really good. I think knowing the numbers, understanding the numbers of behind things and what to look for, because I think initially I was so emotional as an owner. Like if a member decided that they wanted to cancel, it was almost like the end of the world. And I started to think, oh, what I'm doing shit, and it's not good. And what's been really good about working with gym owners is that it's focusing on the numbers and trying to take the emotion out of things, which has been really, really, really good. And it's actually, the irony is we've grown so much faster than what I would have been if I would be, working on that kind of premise of, oh, well, so-and-so was cancelled, so we need to change this or we need to change that. Well, actually, do you know what? The numbers say we're going in the right direction, so let's stick to doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
I think that's what been one of the biggest effects, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, perfect. Final question then, mate, was, obviously you've come a long way over the last couple of years since you launched the gym. What is something that you've learned during that period of time as a gym owner that you think, if you could go back and tell yourself, when you were getting started, that someone else, another gym owner listening to this might, take a lot of value from or get, a bit of insight from?
I think the biggest and most powerful thing that I did as an owner was decide to go and hire a coach, hire someone to do the day-to-day tasks that allow you to do the bigger tasks. And I think I wish I'd done that right from the very start. because I'm not about to endure that kind of 6 to 9 months of where it really took its toll. And I think that like I understand it's quite scary. I was quite scared at first because then you've got to employ someone. Um, and there is, I suppose, there's a bit of risk behind that, or what you feel is risk. But actually, you've got to. It's an investment into your business to be able to then free up your time to then put your energy into things like your sales, into managing the business a lot more. I think that's definitely the biggest effect that has had on the gym is been able to bring in coaches. So now I've got 3 coaches that now do all the day-to-day things. So it allows me to focus on the bits that's going to drive the business forward, not have to deal with the small minor details, which can, when they all add up, they take up time. And the nice thing is now is that some of my members have got great relationships with these coaches. They know them more than they know me, which I love. I love that. I love not having to be the person that everyone has to come to. It's great that they can go to these coaches now, and I know that those guys are passing on what I would say as well. So, yeah, hiring a great team, but hiring that initial first coach is probably the biggest thing and what I'm most grateful for.
Yeah, mate. Great advice. All right, perfect. Well, that's all in terms of questions, mate. I just wanted to say, great work. Everything you've done so far, you've obviously got stuck in, put the work in. You've made progress better than a lot of gym owners would ever make across a much longer period than you have in 2 or so years. So good work on that front.
I just think that it's been such a good, like I said, what everyone I speak to, it's like the best thing I ever did. Like in terms of like, I think when we initially spoke, like my initial thought was almost like, oh shit, like, it's a big commitment, but then it's the same as a coach, isn't it? As soon as you get that coach, I'm thinking, shit, I've got to pay someone $1,500, $2,000 a month. But actually, what that does for the rest of the business is massively grow it. So, no, thank you for everything, mate. It's great, and certainly loving where we're at as a gym. So hopefully, just going to keep it going.